Hey folks, so I'm going to show you guys how to modify a popcorn popper to roast coffee in it. Now, the first thing you need is to choose the proper popcorn popper. This is the one I use to roast popcorn in. Now, when you look at it, it blows air from the bottom. So by blowing air from the bottom, you're not going to necessarily have the air flowing evenly around the beans to give you a good even roast. What you want is a popcorn popper like this one, where the air blows out of the sides. And this way, as long as you don't overfill it, the beans are rotating and you're getting a good even roast. Now, the reason why a popcorn popper is an excellent choice, and it's also very inexpensive for roasting coffee, is because it basically is similar to a fluid coffee roaster. Most commercial roasters will use the big drum roasters, but a lot of them will also use fluid roasters, and they can roast a larger quantity in a smaller amount of time compared to the drum roasters, and it doesn't run on natural gas like a drum roaster does. And there is no real consensus over which one gives a better roast. So even though you don't have all these settings to get like a consistent roast every time, once you hone your skills, you're going to get very close and it's going to be excellent coffee. So now with that as well, another thing to consider is when you buy a popcorn popper, it's ideal to choose a model that does not have a built-in thermostat. Now, this is the first popcorn popper that I used to roast coffee in, and it had a built-in thermostat. So what happened was, as soon as it hit, I think 186 degrees or so, it cut off. And that was right around first crack. You know, when you roast coffee beans, you first have the first crack and then the second crack, and you want to time the time in between, etc., to know what level of roast, etc. So I had to take this ring. So I had modified, this was the chamber that came inside, and it had a small screw that this clamped around. This basically clamped around, and this was turned the other way and had wires. So I literally had to remove this from this thing that sat in here and take this out, take the wires and splice them. So I took this apart so they were out and concealed from underneath. And so I was able to bypass the thermostat. However, if you buy a model like this one here, I just got this week off Amazon, and it was cheaper than this model. Same company though. And it doesn't have a built-in thermostat, so this one means there's less modification to do. Now with that said, another thing is you want to make sure, like I like to roast outside because all the chaff blows out and I don't want to have to worry about cleaning up the kitchen or smoking up the house. So I'll roast outside. Now one thing to note is you do not want to roast outdoors when the weather is cold. So I bypassed the thermostat and then I was roasting, and it was not roasting because the air was too cold coming in. So I had this sitting here because at first I just had the small piece and I didn't build modification. And as you can see, this started melting. And if you notice here, that is slightly distorted because this was sitting on top. That's where you want it typically. And it melted. So you see it's designed to sit in there, but it's not very symmetrical anymore. So do not roast your beans outdoors when the weather is too cold, or else you could not get a good roast and melt your equipment. So what I like to do, because I took a tin can, this had a hole already in one area, and I had to drill a couple holes, and I put a couple longer screws, and you know, by removing the top and bottom of a tin can, you can adapt it for a chimney. And the reason why you want to do that is because it will, like, basically the chaff will blow out and not the beans. When you just have this piece over here, you're going to lose a few beans, and this way you can retain more of the coffee. Now, as you can see, I had the head of the screw coming out and the nut here. This was very tricky to get through there, so I had to do it with trial and effort. And, you know, a little bit of oil with a general purpose drill is all you need to drill through metal. That's not a big ordeal. So now for this one, because it's the same brand, I just can put the old one on here. So what I have to do is remove the top plate. Now I'm going to tell you a little secret about the top plate once I do remove this. So there are 2 screws underneath on this model as well. So if you just do a search on popcorn popper, you'll find this, or if it's phased out, you'll find something else similar, you know, if you're watching this video after they've discontinued this and replaced it. Okay, that one was a little tricky. One interesting thing I just noticed is it seems to have like a little vent here. I don't know what that's for, if it's to blow air from the top or not. And I stand corrected. This model does have a thermostat built in, even though when I looked at the label, it says it does not cut off automatically. So I will have to modify the thermostat on this one. Let me just remove these screws before they poke me. So the easiest thing to do is, if you look here, these should just pull out. But they're so crimped on really tight, it's not the easiest thing to do, and there's a little bit of like a metal catch. Fortunately, I did bring a flathead screwdriver, so I'm going to have to pull a little tab up to pull this out, or so I thought. I remember it was a pain to remove these. The easiest thing is to take this wire and just connect it, but, you know, cut this and splice. And I can't, no, this one I pulled completely out, and I can't remember why I did that, but I would rather just pull this out and splice it. But anyway, I can go ahead and at least remove the ring. But yeah, you do want to remove the thermostat. And this tiny screw is the one I used on that one. You guys are gonna get a treat here. Watch me injure myself in front of the camera. Or not. Yeah, just for the sake of time, I am going to splice this. So I'm going to go ahead and... Do I really want to do that, though? I think that's what I did with this one, but I'm just going to go ahead and do that. So let me go grab a pair of scissors, and we'll tackle this. And that will just be a much quicker thing rather than detaching the whole thing from the bottom just to reattach. Then I can tuck this underneath somewhere. Now, another reason, though, before I do that, another reason you want to remove the thermostat is when I was trying to roast this thing outside and it was not roasting, it did not just melt this and the scoop. Also, running so many amps through this with the current for so long actually melted the contacts in the switch, so this was melted in the on position. And it's nice having a working switch on this so I don't just have to plug it in every time I want to run it and plug it out when I want to turn it off. So let me go grab the scissors and we'll work on this. I grabbed a pair of scissors and a couple of these. Can't remember what these are called, if they're like special wire nuts or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, I'm just cutting this like that. And sometimes it's a pain to do things in front of the camera, but I'm going to hold this pair of scissors like this and just turn. Basically, I'm cutting the edge, then trying to pull this out. And this way you expose the wires. And as long as you don't do it too hard, you don't need to worry about the special wire cutter. So now I guess I have to go this way. So same thing, just turning the scissors while holding that and not pressing down too hard. Where was I when I was cutting? Not here. So I'm just doing this. And I could also do that just to give it a good cut. And then see, and then twist. And if you don't cut deep enough, it's harder to twist, so then you just try again a little. So annoying that so many people like to mow their lawns on Fridays and Saturdays versus during the week, and it's like I record videos and I have to try to work around them, but I hear someone mowing the lawn. This one seems to be harder. It has a different... okay, I got it. So now I can twist the wires. Okay. I can take them like that. Like that. Put the nut in there. And make sure it's really, really tight. There. So then I'm going to tuck this in there so it's out of the way. And it won't fit underneath that easily, would it? I got it. Good. You know, underneath is where the air comes in and comes through, so it's not going to be as hot as the air above it, so it will be fine. And now I can put this in there, and then if I wanted to, you see this will not fit on top easily. And I didn't like with this one, because I used it without the top, I didn't like how gunk would fall in. So what I'm going to do is figure out how I can remove, you know, the tin can is a little bit wider. I can actually keep this that tall and build a skirt. That might be an interesting thing, but I'd like it to be down, but I also want this to pull up, and the problem is these nuts or those, but it's, you see, these are a little too long for this smaller popcorn popper. So if I go at an angle, oh no, I got it. Okay, if it goes in that way, it fits. And you see how it rocks? That is no problem, because as this heats up, it will be fixed in there. So I usually have to use like an oven mitt and hold it down. And I would like to trim this up to here, just so I could put this on top. But the only thing is, I don't know how well that would work. It would be nice to have longer screws to go through here, but then you'd melt the metal. Anyway, for the time being, I'm going to use this without the top. So, with that said, let's roast some coffee. I have the popcorn popper now turned coffee roaster plugged in. And these mason jars are just excellent for storing your beans in. Now, these beans here amount to the equivalent of 2 scoops. You don't want to put more than that. You want 1.5 to 2 at best. So I'm going to pour these in here. Now, if you notice, I have a paper towel cut to fit on the top as a gasket, and I'll show you why in a moment. But I also have a bowl, and I have like an oven type mitt. So when I turn this on, you see the chaff blowing, and you see this is not steady, so I have to push this down and wait until it heats up. Now it's heated up, it's fine. Let me get the camera to it to show you how it's roasting on the inside. So as you can see, it's turning nicely, which is going to help give a nice even roast to it. And now we wait. About time to turn it off. Okay, I don't want it to be too dark of a roast, and it's really roasting well. So I'm going to dump this. Yeah, I got a slightly darker roast than I wanted. But what's nice about this coffee that I bought, the last batch of green beans I got came from Panama near the Costa Rican border, and there would still be a little chaff on it, but it tasted good. This is Honduran coffee. And now what I'm doing is stirring this to let it cool off nicely. Yeah, this is a darker roast, but it turned out okay, although I'm not crazy about a dark roast. So then, the reason why I have a paper towel is when you roast, you want the beans to breathe for 6 to 12 hours a minimum, up to 24 hours. Usually you don't want it more than that, so by having a paper towel cut as a gasket, you can put it against the ring and trace it. I can put it in a jar. So basically I'll scoop it in a jar, and this way I can let it breathe overnight, and then I'll put the metal piece on there. Yeah, this turned out really good and even. I'll show you guys in a moment after I scoop it up. Most people would let this wait a little bit longer to cool, because when you put, it's still roasting a little bit after the fact because it's still hot. So that's just one thing to keep in mind when you're roasting your beans. And yeah, I do still have, like you can see, just a little chaff, but not much. Not as much as I used to get with the other kind. So this might be considered a higher quality bean. I'm not sure, but anyway, so just to show you guys, you have a nice even roast, but it's a dark roast and I like a medium. And now what I do is I have the paper towel for a gasket. That got hot sitting up there, by the way. Sitting here overnight. I can always add more to it and then put that over. And then this is going to be hot. And then this, I'll put that back on tomorrow after I've enjoyed my morning cup of coffee, so it can keep the rest of it fresh until I use it all up. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and knowledgeable and inspiring if you're trying to roast your own coffee, or if you've had trouble roasting with a popcorn popper before and you just want to know some secrets of the trade per se. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please subscribe. It helps my channel out. It helps me want to be inspired to produce more quality content and some not quality ones. I'm not going to be basically just saying every single video I turn out is a hit. But anyway, thank you for watching, and happy roasting.